I believe that the 20th century has been guided by two major principles. One has been freedom, and the other concept has been democracy. Freedom, particularly when I think of countries like India and Kenya and Zimbabwe and many, many other pre-colonial era. So all the countries fought for their freedom and for their independence. And so the idea of becoming free has been very great and dominant in our century. And the other word, an idea, which has been very strong and powerful, has been the idea of democracy. And every country, they profess to be democratic. Even when they are not practicing democracy, they say we are democratic. Even when you have dictatorship, they say, oh, we are having this dictatorship as a sort of interim period. Eventually we are going to have democracy. So the idea of democracy and idea of freedom has been strongly dominating our thinking, and which is good. That very good two ideas. My belief is that the 21st century is going to be the century of two different concepts, and those will be ecology and spirituality. Because in the name of freedom and democracy, we have developed, particularly in the West, a very strong sense of individualism, almost like a cult of the individualism. And we believe that me and I succeeding is the most important thing in life. So when that individualism has been strong, we have lost a sense of relationship. And under that cult of the individualism, I believe, what has been is this great revolution of rational thinking, industrial thinking. Everything what is measurable, quantifiable, logical, rational, that is supreme. And if it is intuitive, spiritual, soul-oriented, relationship-oriented, community-oriented, then it's spiritual mumbo-jumbo. So the century, on the one hand, had two great ideas of freedom and democracy, but on the other hand, the century has seen a great sort of a turn in one extreme direction, and that needs to be balanced and needs to be restored. When we talk about ecology and spirituality, we are talking about restoring the balance. Restoring the balance and bringing mind, the intellect, the rational part of ourselves in harmony with the heart and the intuition and the soul and the spirit. And when those two are in harmony with each other, then you have a much more balanced society. So spirituality is going to be important because people are already finding out that they are hungry for something. They have got material well-being, they have got cars and televisions and computers and aeroplanes and all those sort of industrial gadgets and industrial goods and industrial consumer items and durables. We have all got them. But there's still something lacking. There's some kind of, there's a vacuum. The people are not fulfilled. They are on a treadmill. They don't know where they are going. There is a loss of meaning. The 20th century has been the century of the loss of meaning. And therefore, now people are searching for something. So in the sort of want of better word, we can call what they are searching for is a sense of the soul and the spirit and of themselves and their relationship with environment around them. Because when we worked under the paradigm of industrialism, we thought that nature is out there. The environment is, when you look out of the window, that's where the environment is. Nature out there. And our aim, like Francis Bacon and many other scientists like him said, our aim is to conquer nature, to subjugate nature. Now, we are finding out that that is not working. You can't conquer nature because nature is not your enemy. Because if nature is your enemy, you are your own enemy. Because you are nature. Ecology is not out there. Nature and environment is not out there. We are it. We are made of earth. We come from the earth and we return to the earth, as the old saying goes. We are the earth. If the food we eat did not grow from the earth, we will have no body. As the environment and nature is made of 5 elements or 4 elements: earth, fire, water, air, space. And 6th element, time. And the 7th element, consciousness. There are 7 elements. So the universe is made of all those 7 elements. And we are earth. And we are water. If there is no moisture in my eyes, and if there is no moisture in my mouth, I will not be able to see, and I will not be able to speak. If there is no moisture in my body, the blood is water, moisture. So we cannot survive without water for a day or 2. So we are made of water. And we are made of fire too. If we do not have warmth in our body, if the temperature falls down or goes up, something upset happens, we cannot survive. So we are fire. The fire is not out there. The energy is not out there. We are it. And so space, and so is time. We are it. And so is consciousness. So a greater awareness of the unity of the whole universe is what I think ecology is. Ecology is that, and that is spiritual ecology. Particularly it is a spiritual ecology, because in spiritual ecology you are not considering that human beings are the masters of nature and we have to dominate nature out there for our benefit. We say we are together. It's a partnership. Like 2 human beings can make partnership, trees and humans can also make partnership. It's a partnership. If there was no tree, I'll not be able to sit here. If there were no trees, where will these panels come from? And where this wonderful ceiling come from? So it's a true partnership. So when we look at the house, we say, who was the great architect who built such wonderful building? And we take a sense of gratitude to that architect and pay a tribute to the architect. And then we say, who was the carpenter? Who was the woodworker who made such a beautiful pieces of furniture and building? We pay tribute to him. But you have to go further and say, well, we pay tribute to the trees. Thank you, oak, or ash, or elm, whoever you are. Thank you for sheltering us. And that kind of sense of deep reverence for nature is, I call, spiritual ecology. And the ecology movement generally is still sort of on a sort of managerial style of ecology. We have to manage the woodland, we have to manage the earth, we have to manage the environment. And I think that is flawed, that is superficial, that is not going far enough. I mean, you can be good managers and bad managers, and sometimes you can be good and sometimes you can be bad. But when you feel oneness with the earth and environment, and when you have a sense of reverence, and in India, things go further. In India we say, everything in the universe is home of gods. The Ganges river flows out of the hair of Lord Shiva. Now that's a symbolic meaning, that everything is sacred, everything is holy. Now that kind of attitude will be very alien to the scientific, rational, industrial mind of the modern times. But when you have that understanding and attitude to environment, you treat environment differently. You treat environment like you treat people. Because human life is sacred, isn't it? Human life is sacred. You say human rights. No one has right to use human life or take human life. In the same way, we have no right to take natural life. And when we take it with reverence, with respect, and with a sense of gratitude. Now that, to me, is so spiritual ecology. So when we can develop that attitude, we will create a kind of more balanced and more restored balanced society, where matter and the mind, matter and the spirit are not two separate entities. Because in the scientific thinking, we have also separated mind and matter. But in the spiritual ecology, mind and matter become one. Body and the soul become one. Without the soul, there is no body. It's dead. And without the body, soul cannot have place. So, soul and body are not two separate. So that sense of unity and yet diversity. So, separateness and oneness come together in a one whole, and therefore you see this wonderful grand scheme of creation. There's so much, but everything is interrelated. And that is where the philosophy of Gaia, the hypothesis of Gaia, have you heard of hypothesis of Gaia? James Lovelock. And he developed this idea of Gaia, which means that the whole earth is one living organism. Everything is connected. So if you are doing here something like puffing the smoke out of industrial chimneys and nuclear power stations and coal-powered stations and so on, it will affect the life in Russia or in Brazil. And if you are cutting down the forest in Brazil, it will affect life in India. And if you cut down forests in Himalayas, it will affect Bangladesh. So the whole earth is one living organism, totally interconnected, like the whole body is one organism. If you pull hair on the top of the head, I'll feel in my feet. And if you have a little thorn in your feet, you will feel in your brain. So the whole body is connected. In the same way, the whole earth is one body, one living organism. It's all connected. Now that is proved by the scientists in a scientific way, which is quite wonderful, because this kind of thinking has always been there in religious traditions of Taoist, Buddhist, Hindu, etc. But a scientist discovering that and proving that is something quite new. So Gaia becomes a great symbol of ecological and spiritual thinking, where everything has that interconnectedness, interdependence. So we cannot say, oh, we will look after our country, we will look after economy of England, we will look after the environment of England, we will look after the rivers of England, we'll keep them clean. It doesn't matter what happens somewhere else. We cannot think like that in the context of Gaia, because we are all part of one little earth. Little earth, it is little. When the astronauts went into the space, they looked down, this planet home, only small, floating like a bowl in the space with beautiful colors like a work of art. And there are no boundaries there. You cannot see where Africa is or where Europe is and where poor is and where rich is and where Muslims are, where Christians are. No divisions there. When you look from the eyes of the astronauts, it's all one small planet Earth, which is our home. And therefore, we have to take care of the whole home. It's like your school. You have many, many different buildings, many, many different, somewhere you have library, somewhere you have church, somewhere you have this old school room, somewhere you have a dining room, somewhere you have sports hall, somewhere. All those are connected. So one school. And the school is connected with Sherborne. And Sherborne is connected with Dorset. And Dorset is connected with Wessex. And Wessex is connected with the whole West Country. And West Country with England. And England with Europe. And Europe, go on and on. Rest of the world. So understanding that sense of relationship and connectedness is the essence of Gaia. And so I think the next century is going to discover, like we look back and say, oh, how great scientists like Newton and Galileo and Einstein and all these great scientists. In the next century, we will remember someone like James Lovelock, who invented the theory of Gaia. And he will be remembered in that way, big way, as a great scientist. So once you understand that this whole earth is one living system, then you have to think, how do we relate with this earth? How do we take, because we have to take wood to build our house, we have to take cotton to build or wool to make our clothes, we have to take food to eat, we have to use the resources of the earth, even though we use with reverence. So we have a second idea that all our activities should be sustainable, which is in certain circles called permaculture, culture of permanence, culture of sustainability. So when you do something today, there are two ways to do it. One, how quickly I can make profit from this action and become rich, and doesn't matter what happens later. Or you think how this action is going to affect the seventh generation. That was the philosophy of American Indian people. American Indians believed that whatever you do, think how your action is going to affect the seventh generation. Now we don't think in those terms. Even we don't think of our children and grandchildren. We just think our life, or 5 years, or 10 years. Quick buck. That is the philosophy of the modern times. So posterity, sustainability, thinking of the future, sustainability, that is the second idea following Gaia. And then the third idea is we should try to live from the means of local area. So if you are living in Dorset, first you have to see how we can take what is available in Dorset and feed ourselves and clothe ourselves and build houses for ourselves, rather than importing butter from New Zealand and apples from South Africa and bananas from India or wherever, because the cost of transportation and the pollution which is caused and the use of energy, the fossil fuel, the oil which is used, is all unnecessary. So we have to develop a system of economy and consumption which is based on local transportation, local consumption, local use, so that you don't go too far and waste a lot of energy. So so-called free trade, our government is very keen on free trade. I call it free raid. It's not free trade, it's a free raid. It's a free raid on nature. It's a free raid on environment. How? And on poor people too. So how you, if we pollute our air, we are not polluting air, we are polluting ourselves, because we are going to breathe that air. So reduce the amount of transportation and the burning of oil as far as possible and use local resources. So that is another principle which is very important for ecology. So these are the ecological principles, and I talked about the spiritual principles. So if we can change our way of thinking and relate ourselves to the environment around us, and we see that we are going to be happy and healthy if our environment is healthy, then we are going to create a much better society. And then we will develop lots of other things which will give us much greater joy. And that will be poetry. You don't need any fossil fuel to write poetry. And there will be much more music, because at the moment everybody is so busy making money, there is no time to write poetry. And there is no time, people have very little time to do creative and artistic activities, because they are working from 9 to 5, and then they go home and they are exhausted, so they have no time to do anything, and so they sit in front of the television and just consume what is given to you. So we become consumers of the arts. And then arts are left to a few experts, specialists, great artists, and they will produce your television drama or television film or television documentary or something like that. And the masses of people are just sort of deprived of any celebration and joy and poetry and art and music and storytelling and conversation and being together. So that is the drabness of our industrial culture. The industrial society is very drab, very unimaginative, very uninteresting. It's all mass-produced by factory. My vision of the new 21st century is a century of great joy and great celebration and great poetry and great harmony. And that can come only when we restore the balance and not just depend on the industrial economics. Because at the moment, economics is dominating everything. All our spheres of life are dominated by economy. Only religion of our time people believe in is the religion of economy, religion of consumption. And however much we have talked about ecology, about environment, about spirituality for the last 20 years, it doesn't seem to get anywhere. When you open the newspaper or listen to the radio or watch television or listen to prime ministers or the chancellor today giving his budget, it's only economy. Economy will save us. Economy is not going to save us. Economy should be subservient to human happiness. And there are many, many other things which we have to give prominence and importance and give them a place of greatness. So this is the idea behind the nature and the spirit and the society, and that really is the century of the ecology. I'm an optimist, and therefore I would say that it's worth trying. Even if we don't succeed, we are not going to lose anything by trying. But if we don't try, then it's not going to happen. But if we try, there's a chance of some renewal and change and transformation. There's a chance. And it is going to happen not from the top. It is not going to happen that one year the Chancellor of the Exchequer will create a budget which is the spiritual economy budget. Yeah? He's not going to do that. Change has to begin at the grassroots level. And each and every one of us can light a candle rather than curse the darkness. Each one of us can do something. Even when you are buying organically grown local vegetables, you are making a difference. So each one of us have to be participants in this great transformation of our age. And when you get 10 or 15% of people thinking in a new paradigm way, thinking with new values, more integrated values, rather than this divided and separated and split values, then 10 or 15% people is what is called critical mass. So it is up to us, each one of us, every one of us, to do whatever we can in our own way. Take one step at a time. And the long journey begins with first step.